The entire UPSC examination, from strategy to syllabus, all the subjects, all the obstacles, all the stages from prelims to mains to interview has been gamified. So this is big news for me to share with you because it has been a long time coming, and this has been a dream project of mine ever since I was a UPSC aspirant like yourself. It is big news for you because nothing like this has ever been done before, and I dare say that it has been done to a very fine, exquisite degree to make sure that everything that you face in the UPSC examination, every obstacle that you face in the UPSC examination is answered to, replied, and gamified and made enjoyable to you using this tool. Every examination is like a game. There is a player, which is you. There are rules which you must follow. There is a qualification round at the end of which you either qualify or you don't. The UPSC examination is much like that. In fact, it's structured in layers and stages. But it is different from other games because this is real life. This game has real life consequences. If you clear this examination, your entire life changes. The only question is this: are you going to go through that journey in misery, anxiety, depression, uncertainty, which, if you are a UPSC aspirant, you must have experienced at least to some degree? Or are you going to go through that journey having an enjoyable experience, creating good, fond memories, earning positivity as you go along? Are you going to go through it and come out of it a better person than you were before? Are you going to come out of it successful and smiling? And that is the attempt which has been made, and the entire spirit of the project that you are seeing in front of you is to make it enjoyable so that your learning itself increases, so that you become better at the end of the day, which is going to lead to a direct correlation with you clearing the examination. So the game that you are playing in the UPSC examination is a game, and this is how you templatize that game. This is how you actually play it on a board in one place. You are playing that game whether you know it or not. The first thing we need to do to simplify the process and the journey of your UPSC preparation and to make it as enjoyable as possible is to change your relationship with the process, is to change your relationship with the exam. This preparation journey is not something to be miserable in, to toil through, to suffer through. It can be made enjoyable, and it is something to look forward to. It's a very good opportunity, and you can go in it with a lot of confidence and faith in yourself if you have the right tools to do so. Like sailors used to navigate through the ocean using constellations and stars, and similarly you use the navigator to navigate through the syllabus, which is like the ocean, and so that metaphor of the ocean and the navigator fits quite perfectly. That's why a lot of emphasis has been paid on it. Another very powerful way, which I have been using personally, which I wanted to share with you, which is very underappreciated, very underrated in my opinion, is the effect of the environment, is the ambience, is what you are exposed to every day. You may wonder why the room I am sitting in is the way it is. Why is it chaotic? Why is it full of objects? Why is it colorful? It is vibrant. Why have so many books? Why have all these trinkets? Why have all this color around me? Because it affects my mood, because it affects my learning ability, because whenever I come inside this room, I want it to be welcoming. I want it to be something to look forward to, so that I want to come in here more often. The more often I come in, the more I end up looking at these books, the more I realize how much I don't know, the more I end up reading, and supposedly the smarter I get. That is the relationship you need to develop with your books in the UPSC examination. What you go through is a process which is going to take a long time. So this navigator, or whatever it is that you use to remind yourself, the way you structure your environment is very important. You are going to be looking at this for an year or more, perhaps every day. So it should be visually striking, and it needs to convey the message through one glance. That was the objective of creating it and the reason behind the design. It needs to communicate the entire insight of the UPSC examination about GS, about your strategy, about how well you are doing, about how much you have to do, about your entire progress, and about what to do if your progress falters, should be available to you at a single glance. And that glance should be a glance which you like. So therefore, whatever object, this hypothetical object that I am describing, is, should be visually beautiful. It should be visually pleasing. That is why so much of emphasis has been laid on the graphical design, because it is going to affect the quality of your learning manifold. The next thing is to understand why the examination is hard. Why is it hard enough to call for an ultimate weapon? Well, it's hard for a number of reasons which are mostly misunderstood. It's hard because not only because of the competition or the vast syllabus, it's hard because it is very different. Nothing prepares you for it in your school or education, school or college education, and it is something which we all come into in a more or less level playing field, because you might be an engineer or you might be an accounts graduate. In the UPSC, you will find yourself at a level playing field with everybody else, because nobody knows GS ever unless they've been training specifically for it, and nobody knows the optional subjects, and nobody prepares you for ethics, and nobody is going around writing essays in their free time, right? Each one of us ends up doing maybe one or two of these things, but not all of them. And the NCRTs, of course, have been long forgotten, because it's been a long while since you left school. And who cared about them anyway when you were in school? But now there's a different issue, because now you're preparing for the UPSC exam. So what are you going to do? Here is what you are going to do. You will start by ending your confusion. You will start by understanding the UPSC examination very thoroughly, very intimately. You need to know what it is. You need to know what to do when you face obstacles, and you need to understand this entire progression, which it goes through the prelims and the mains and the interview, which I'll tell you about shortly. But you also need to know if you are learning well enough. Some form of feedback mechanism needs to be there to keep informing you if you are on the straight, if you are on the right track even, or not. And if you are, then how to improve. And if you have strayed from that track, then how do you do some course correction? So whatever you do, your strategy needs to be dynamic, and you need to know what you're doing. Essentially, have a bird's eye view of the entire field, so that you know if you're going away on a tangent somewhere, and you want to be on track. You want to be a navigator who can get through using the signs, using this navigator, using his intelligence and all this feedback that you'll get from it, to get to the UPSC examination, your goal, in the shortest possible way. All the critical insights, like I mentioned, have been included in the navigator, in the visually striking elements of it. I will explain one by one shortly. The first thing you will notice is the structure of the examination is embedded in it. The entire structure starts from prelims here, where you will find one hexagon leading to general studies. This one is general studies for prelims. This is CSAT for prelims. Down here is the mains exam, and these big hexagons are the mains exam, essentially all the 7 papers on which you will be scored, which are not qualifying in nature, which are important, which you'll have to prepare for. So you have GS1 here, GS2, GS3. This is ethics, this is optional subject, and this one is essay. Everything that you'll have to prepare, everything that is on the menu and as far as your preparation is concerned is here. Now, the important thing is that what is inside these hexagons, this fine print which you can't read, is all the syllabus that the UPSC mentions in their official notification. The entire syllabus, word to word, which UPSC has mentioned in the official notification, has been taken and transposed into these hexagons. The reason behind the shape is that it is the optimal shape, because first of all, it's symmetrical. Second, it embodies a very important insight about the UPSC exam. You see, nobody knows where to begin from, because there is no regular stipulated list of subjects to go through. There is no reason for you to do polity first or history later, or the other way around. You may start from your optional subject, you may start from something else. In any case, a linear list can't be prescribed. It should be something which is symmetrical and which can be dynamic. I'll explain the dynamism in a bit, but I call these hexagons hexagyan because they embody this insight. And the color coding and the coloring of them also have a very, very important significance, which I'll tell you later. So you need to take the navigator and paste it on a place where you will have regular exposure to it. It needs to be pasted perhaps on the back of a door or on the wall of your study table, somewhere where even while passing, you end up glancing at it. What will happen is that once it's pasted there, it will start to become a part of the room, and you will not end up paying a lot of attention to it every day. But something will begin to happen subliminally and subconsciously. You are going to have regular exposure to this constantly, and it will keep on reinforcing all these things that I'm telling you. This thing about the journey, about what is going on, where you are in the preparation journey, about how you need to play this game, about what your next task is, about how you finish your previous task and how the next task is going to be exciting and what to do next is going to keep on going on at the back of your mind, which is exactly what we want. Because most people end up dropping the examination journey because life gets in the way. They're busy, they're working, other things come into the picture. This examination is not something that you are going to be tied to, right? Nobody's going to force you to do it. So how do you maintain consistency? That is a big issue, and hopefully this will resolve that issue. It is based on the principle of neuro-linguistic programming also, which is heavily used in the design. This portion here is the navigator, is the strategizer, and it will ask you, first of all, to input your name, and it will ask you to input your future service, right? Don't be shy. Whatever you want yourself to be, mention it. Let it be known that you want to be an IAS officer or an IPS officer or whatever it is that you dream of. Let it be in front of you. Let that commitment be made. Okay? There is a lot of psychological research which says that when people make a commitment and they're exposed to that commitment constantly, even if there are no consequences, they end up following that commitment a lot more than other people. That is the insight from behavioral economics that has been used here. The other thing is that this section here you will find is an affirmations section. This is where you write your affirmation. This is where you write your own future in your own words. For instance, in my strategizer, I wrote, I am an IPS officer with an amazing job profile, tremendous respect, a happy family, and the satisfaction of having achieved my goal of clearing the UPSC CSE exam. Now that's a good affirmation. That's a positive affirmation to have. By looking at it every day, by being reminded of it every day, I will instill positivity inside me, inside my preparation journey. This positivity will lead to better thinking. It will lead to more resilience. I won't burn out as fast as other people, and it will all contribute to my success in the end. So neuro-linguistic programming is being heavily used, and you should not feel shy while using it. It will prove helpful. Another reason I wanted to mention is that the strategy which you follow in the UPSC exam is going to be dynamic, right? You will follow a different strategy from everybody else because, like I mentioned in previous videos, your preparation is going to be different from everybody else. You are a different nervous system, a different brain, you have different strengths, different weaknesses, different backgrounds. We don't know if you're going to be left-brained or right-brained, or if you're going to want to start your optional subject first, or your history, or prelims, or mains. There's a lot of questions, and it all depends on you and your strategy, right? So this dynamism, this flexibility needs to be incorporated in this object. That was a very important prime requisite, which took me a long time to incorporate as effectively as I wanted. It's based on the pinball game. The pinball game, if you've ever encountered, is a dynamic game. Essentially, it is a board which has a lot of obstacles. You push the ball up and it collides randomly with a lot of different objects, but it ultimately, inevitably comes down, right? Gravity makes sure that it ultimately comes down, which is exactly the insight which I've tried to embed and reinforce. That this, starting from the prelims and the mains, going through all of this is where you must ultimately land in the interview, and from there to success and onwards. This navigator has taken more than 11 years to create. I have gone through a long journey of my own to learn, understand, prepare myself, re-educate myself on a number of things. I ended up doing a degree in psychology in the process and read a lot, studied a lot, which was a very pleasurable experience. I am happy to have had that in my life, and I hope you have that too. You can do that in the UPSC examination. So what you see over here is one of the older drafts which I made for the navigator. So it took hundreds of these drafts to get from this to this. It took 3 different graphic designers, some of which from different countries. They were from different countries. It took insights from many people to collaborate and create every single thing that you require in the UPSC examination and to include it in one place. So here it is. And so the other insight which it embodies is that prelims and mains need to be prepared alongside. They need to be prepared in an integrated way, not in a segregated way. Why? because of general studies. General studies is the core of the UPSC examination, as I've mentioned, I've told you before. There is no escaping from it. It includes the entire knowledge base which you will require. It includes history, economics, polity, geography, science and technology, and of course current affairs. You will find the same subjects repeated in prelims, repeated in mains, perhaps even in the interview. And it accounts for a massive portion in your final score. So you cannot clear the prelims without being good at general studies. In fact, that will determine if you clear the prelims or not. You can't clear the mains if you are not good at it, because it accounts for most of the examination. As you can see, all three of these, a huge portion of the board is devoted to general studies, and that depicts the weightage that it has. If this is the entire exam, I would say about 60-70% of the entire surface is being taken up by general studies, which visually shows you that it is very important. So what do you do with it? And this is how the navigator will help you in it. You will find that the hexagon here in prelims, the general studies hexagon in prelims, is color coded, and this color coding is a very important element of the navigator. There are 6 essential subjects of general studies, like I mentioned: history, economics, geography, polity, environment, science and technology, and of course current affairs, which is a different story. But these 6 main theoretical subject domains are color coded, and this color coding will remain constant throughout the canvas. So notice this, that if you want to do history, for instance, the blue here is history in prelims. You will find the same blue here in GS1, right? And you will find the same blue here down in the strategizer, this gem, and I'll explain why that is the case. But the same thing you will find with the orange. Say the orange denotes polity, right? The orange denotes polity. When you have it close to you, you will be able to read much clearly what it says. So polity, you will be able to tell at a single glance that the entire GS2 is polity, and it includes the syllabus of the mains in a much richer detail. The syllabus of the mains is essentially a more expanded version of the syllabus in prelims. So the syllabus of mains is the real syllabus for your general studies, and this should be able to tell you just by a single glance that what you are doing in prelims, for instance economics, will have to be done in GS3 in mains. At an instant you can tell, and you can also tell if you've done environment here where in prelims you did it before. So all these insights you will be able to glean from a glance. Like I mentioned, an integrated approach is what we require. The reason behind this integrated approach and why it is essential is because of the type of questions the UPSC now asks. In the prelims, you will find questions which are conceptual as well as require memory. So you can't get away with a separate type of preparation for prelims, because the examination will punish you if your preparation is incomplete. It needs to be integrated in all respects, right? If you say you've done history, you cannot say to me you've done history for prelims and not for mains, or for mains and not from prelims, because the result will show that your preparation essentially is incomplete unless it is done from both angles, right? It is the same subject, and when you say you're prepared for it, you should be prepared for it wholly, which is to say that if I ask you objective type questions, you should be able to tell me those answers. If I ask you conceptual analytical type questions, you should give me a mature opinion based on the knowledge that you have of the subject, right? So the same thing is being tested in 2 different types of formats in prelims and mains, but the subjects do not change. The 6 subject domains remains all throughout history, and that you can see at a single glance in the navigator. You might have noticed the QR codes on the canvas of the navigator. These are QR portals which will take you to the back end of the navigator. The information on the navigator is not the only information that you are going to get access to. There is a wealth of information at the back end if you scan these QR portals or you insert the URL of the QR portals. What you simply do is, say for instance, you require some guidance or some understanding or some information, important information about essay. So you scan, say for instance, the QR code for essay, and it's going to take you to qrcreator.com, which is the host for all these QR codes. It is safe to go to. There it will take you to a link, and you click on that link. It's going to take you to an article. It's going to take you to important resources about essay. It's going to take you to previous year questions, And this will be what you will experience when you scan any of these QR codes. You scan this one, it will show you the important elements for ethics, previous year questions, articles, whatnot. You scan this one, it will take you to general studies mains or polity and so on and so forth. And so behind these QR code and these URLs, you will find a wealth of information, everything that you require, from book lists to playlists to reading material will be available. And since this is the visual, the back end of the website, this is going to constantly be updated. So you will find new information perhaps every time you scan it, and it will keep getting larger and larger in volume, so that everything that you require in time will be condensed and be available in it. The next best thing about it, I suppose the best thing about it, is the effect it's going to have on your pockets, because the cost of UPSC preparation has now become ridiculously expensive. I hear that you can spend as much as 1.5 or 2 lakh rupees just to do general studies or any of the important subjects from any reputed coaching institute. That's a lot of money, and I don't think you should have to spend that amount of money. So the cost of the Navigator will be compressed to the extent that it is not more than 1/100th the cost of the entire UPSC preparation for a typical aspirant. That has been the thrust and the focus of the entire publishing and the manufacturing team behind this thing. Let us not forget that the UPSC exam is about the quality of your learning. So the prime focus needs to be on the quality and depth of your learning. The UPSC exam, like I've spoken about before, is not about book lists. It's not about how well you've understood Lakshmikant or how much you memorize Bipin Chandra, for instance, because the UPSC doesn't care where you get your information from. The sources are not important. The sources are not described or stipulated. All they want to do is test your knowledge about a subject without letting you know where those subjects are going to come from. The only way you'll ever meet that level of understanding and maturity that they ask for, if you look at any of the questions in prelims and mains, the only way you will achieve that level of maturity is when you follow principles of learning, so that your learning is very deep. Not only should it be deep, it needs to be memory based as well as conceptual, right? It needs to be prepared for prelims, it needs to be prepared for mains, like I mentioned, and this holistic understanding of the subject needs to be there. That understanding needs to be applicable as well as practical, right? It's not just theoretical academic distinctions between the subjects which the UPSC cares about. They don't care about that. They will ask you about everything that is happening in the world, and they will expect you to know certain theoretical underpinnings about it also, right? How do you make sure that happens? You make sure that happens by using the hexatask method, which I have spoken about and at length given you an exercise on in my previous videos. If you haven't seen that video, please go back, see it, give the hexatask qualification test, and you will understand what it's all about. But very briefly, it is a progression of learning based on the principles of information processing theory, based on cognitive science, which makes sure that your learning is fundamentally solid from the point of view of the UPSC examination. It consists of 6 steps, like the name suggests, hexatask. The first one is big picture formation. So it's abbreviated as B12QRT, B12QRT. Now this B12QRT you'll find is inscribed in these small hexagons here, which might not be visible to you from the video, but you will be able to find them on canvas when you have it in front of you. B12QRT is the hexatask mentioned everywhere, which reminds you what steps you need to follow in order to claim any subject. So if you say to me that you have done polity, I don't care whether you've done Lakshmikant or you've read the Constitution. All I care about is how deep your level of understanding is. All I care about is, have you done big picture formation? Do you understand the conceptual foundations of it? Have you understood the main authoritative texts which are required that will come in the first reading? Is your knowledge deep enough that will come in the second reading? Have you looked at the previous year questions and understood the needs of the examination and reached that level of maturity, right? That comes from analyzing PYQs. Have you done enough revision so that you can have a mature debate about the legal history of, say, the Keshav Nanda Bharti case in India or any other important landmark, or the Vishakha case, for instance? Do you have knowledge enough about these subjects to have an intelligent intellectual debate about? Have you tested yourself enough so that when I put you in the exam situation and I give you 3 hours to write about these myriad topics, you can come out with flying colors? And you have a knowledge base of a wide variety of subjects. How do you make sure the quality is maintained? You make sure by following the hexatask method. This, like I mentioned, this table here at the bottom is the strategizer. I'll have a separate section on it. It is perhaps the most important element of the UPSC Navigator, and these here are the hexatask method listed, right? You will find big picture formation, first reading, second reading, analyze PVQs, revision, and testing listed here, B1 to QRT. And on this axis, you will find all the subjects listed. Not only will be the subjects listed like math, English, history, polity, geography, economics, so on, so on. Not only are the subjects listed, it is mentioned what part of the examination they constitute, prelims or prelims and mains, or is it only mains, and so on. You'll find all this mentioned over here. And so when I divide the entire syllabus, the entire examination into these categories, right? And then I divide them further into these 6 hexatasks, I get 102 micro goals, which I told you about in the previous video. Those perfectly sized, sizable, objective, manageable, challenging, perfectly challenging level of goals that you require to make sure that your learning is on track and that you can track each of them in time and develop habits out of them. All of that will come, but understand that the hexatask method is inscribed here in the Navigator, and it consists of these 6 steps, and it is made used from the information processing theory. Now comes the most important part, the strategizer. The strategizer is the ultimate scheduling tool for the entire preparation. This is where you form your strategy. This is where you track your progress. This is what reminds you how much you have done, how much you are left to do, and how much you are able to actually achieve your goals. It will tell you in a single glance, like I promised. Because you will find all the subjects listed on one axis and the hexatask listed on the other axis. You will find that it will force you to commit dates, right? So say for instance, CSAT, you're doing math, it will ask you what the estimated date of completion is. You will have to fill a date there. And then it will ask you what the actual date of completion actually was. So you'll have to fill that date there. Once you filled the actual date of completion, and then you can compare it to the estimated date which you planned, right? If you are on track, or if you are, whenever you finish that estimated date, at that stage, you encircle one of these hexagons. This means you've ticked it off. If you are encircling it, it's going to leave a smudge there. It's going to disturb the symmetry, right? Once this begins, you cannot stop until all of them are covered, right? This is how we harness the psychology of habits. It's going to cause cognitive dissonance if you don't cross any one of these every few days. It's going to cause discomfort because you will become addicted to it, because there will be a heavy system of reward and punishment, which I'll tell you about. So the strategizer is going to ask you to commit dates. It will ask you to commit the estimated date of completion. Then it will force you to input the actual date of completion, and then and only then can you strike off any of these small micro hexes. These small micro hexes are 102 in number. They have been divided scientifically based on the weightage of the examination and based on the amount of effort that is required, right? But that is not the half of it. The real fun is in the digital strategizer. The digital strategizer is a tool which I have developed with a lot of painstaking effort. It is a digital tool which will explain to you the entire strategy. This is what a real strategy looks like. Let me share my screen to show you exactly what I mean. This is what a real strategy look like. You will find that the syllabus and all the subjects are listed exactly like in the strategizer, including the color-coded gems, which I will tell you about. And it will then ask you to input planned date, which is your estimated date where you plan to start it, and the actual date. Here, you will have to mention, or I will mention for you, what amount of days are expected How many days did you actually take to complete it? How many days were required, were you planning? And this software, this sheet will plot these things against each other. So you will be able to find your entire progress here depicted on this roadmap. But that's not all. Here on the other page, you will find a visual dynamic dashboard. It will tell you not only of your completion status for the individual subjects, it will tell you your overall preparation status. It will tell you your subject-wise progress also. So that is the digital strategizer which comes along with the navigator for those people who are interested in playing this game. So with the strategizer, every single thing is now complete. There is nothing you require apart from these resources which are embedded in the navigator. But now comes the real fun part. This is the best part. This is the ultimate game. Whoever is interested in this game, whoever obtains the navigator will be challenged to a game against me to play with me. If you win at this game, you win at life. The objective of this game is simple. The objective of this game is to collect all the hexagems at the bottom of the navigator. If you collect and obtain all the hexagems at the bottom of the navigator inscribed in the milestone circuit board tracker, then you will achieve success. But they are not easy to obtain. The UPSC examination has been gamified, but it has not been trivialized. The UPSC examination is serious business and it requires a lot of hard work and it will have to be given due respect. But the entire process can be made much more fun, enjoyable and engaging. And the gamification is supposed to do exactly that. Now, this game, like the UPSC examination, will have real life consequences. And I'll tell you how it works. Like I mentioned, all the subjects in the navigator are color coded. So each one of these milestones, each one of these hexagems is a single milestone. You'll find that the color is kept constant. The entire subject list is color coded. So the yellow, for instance, stands for economics. You'll find the yellow inscribed again in the general studies main subjects, and then you'll find the yellow gem down here, right below economics. You will find the orange gem right below polity, for instance, and you will find polity here and here. So all the subjects, the entire examination has been converted into these hexagems, into these milestones, and this is where the goal of strategy comes into the picture, right? With the micro hexes, we have manageable micro goals, which you can get addicted to. But with these milestones, we have a higher level goal, which will require more time, more effort, more investment to achieve, but with much higher rewards, right? And so the entire examination will be pebbled for you in the conjunction of all these little goals, which will combine to form bigger goals, which is exactly what a scientific strategy is supposed to do, right? Your end game is to obtain all of these hexagems, right? And in order to play that game, you will have to send me a signed copy of the real oath of commitment. You might be familiar with this, but with the navigator will come a real oath of commitment, which will have to be signed by a witness. I want it to be signed by a witness. Let that person be anybody who you trust. You can ask that person to keep this commitment a secret. But as long as there is a single human being who knows that you've made this commitment, it will cause you guilt and it will cause you cognitive dissonance and discomfort if you break your commitment, if you break your path, if you break your promise. We are trying to instill the principles of psychology in making sure that you stick to your commitment. That is the purpose of this oath of commitment. And so therefore, make sure that it is signed by somebody. There should be one human apart from you who knows that you have officially committed to this. Okay? And if this is forthcoming from your side and you have obtained the navigator, then the game is on. What you need to do in the game is obtain all these hexagems. Now, you are not children, so I am not going to spoon feed you with all these micro tasks. I don't care where you get your information from. Here is how it works. If you wish to claim any of these gems, you will have to send me an email on a separately designated email, which I will tell you about once you obtain the Navigator. There you will claim the subject which you wish to be tested on, right? Say for instance, polity. I will give you a test. You will have to attempt the test, solve the question paper within 24 hours and send it back to me. I don't care what books you read. I don't care what type of micro goals you used, whether you used a strategizer or not, whether you used any of the principles or not. If you have obtained the Navigator and if you are playing this game, if you claim any of these gems, I am going to put you through a test. And I don't care whether where you get your knowledge from, where you get your information from. All I'm going to care about is the level of maturity you have reached. If you have not reached the level of maturity which the UPSC exam expects, I will fail you. I am like the big bad guy who doesn't want to give up his gems, right? I am very possessive about them. So I'm only going to give them to you if you are really thoroughly prepared. So make sure when you attempt any of these hexagem qualification tests, all of these subject qualification tests, you are thoroughly prepared, because if you fail any of these tests, and by fail I mean do not achieve the level of very good understanding which I expect from a top level UPSC aspirant. If you don't achieve that top level, selection level content, if I don't find in your solved paper, I will fail you. And I will ban you from applying to any of these tests for a full month. So if you do not qualify for any of these, you will not be able to apply to any other test for 1 or 2 months, right? And if you fail 2 of these tests, then the game is over. It is game over for you. Just like the UPSC examination has real life consequences, this game will have real life consequences. If you obtain the Navigator and if you are interested in playing the games, the rules of the game will be sent to you. And so in this manner, this is the ultimate test series. This is the real test series which is going to put you to the real situation and which will tell you exactly where you stand. If you are worthy enough, you will be able to claim, but you will not be able to claim these hexagems easily, because I will not be giving them away easily. I will be harsher than the UPSC examiner, and that is exactly the type of experience you need to go through. That is exactly what test series are meant to do. So in that sense, test series are also included in the Navigator, in the ultimate game. You are challenged to play. This is going to be a test of fire. This is a very different, very innovative and new way of doing things. Nothing like this has ever been attempted. That is why it is going to work like a charm. I know, because I have spent so much time doing this and such a lot of reading, such a lot of study, that it is bound to make a difference from day one when you start working on it, right? So with that, I need to come to the final part. Whoever claims any of these hexagems will be declared the hexagem champion. And there may be more than one champion, but whenever somebody successfully claims, on the leaderboard, their names will be displayed and it will be flashed all across the country if they wish to. Otherwise, they can be anonymous if they wish to. But you will know that somebody out there has claimed the polity hexagem that you were after. Of course, you can claim it too, but they got there first. So it will instill a sense of healthy competition, which is exactly what I want, which is the spirit in which I want you to remain. It will keep pushing you. It will not let you rest. While it might cause some stress. It is good stress. It is eustress, not distress. It is welcome stress. So we'll have that. However, there is a catch. This is not a mass market product. It is not being mass produced. It will not be available in the open market. You cannot buy it on Amazon or Flipkart or any of the bookstores, right? It will only be printed and produced in very small quantities, because the number of people who can play the game at a time is limited. Okay, so you cannot obtain it just because you want it. You will have to be allocated the Navigator. This allocation will be done from the students of my mentorship program at random. Depending on the number of Navigators available, you will be sent an email in which you will be given a period of time to claim your navigator. Within that period of time, if you do not claim the navigator, perhaps you are not interested in the exam anymore, or for whatever reasons which are best known to you, you don't claim the navigator, it will be given to somebody else. So everybody will sooner or later get a chance to claim the navigator and to play the game. And that is how the process will begin and the games will begin. The navigator will come in a very comprehensive kit. You'll get the oath of commitment inside. You'll get a book list inside, and also some very cool printables which I want should surprise you. So I'm not going to tell you much about that. Enough has been said. A lot has been discussed. A lot of new things have been shared. The UPSC examination has been gamified. The game is on. Are you ready? Let the games begin.